Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and this is Voice of the Global South. All right then, let's get started. On the show this week, will Trump's wavering stance bolster or jeopardize Taiwan's security? As tensions rise between Taiwan and China, Trump's unpredictable approach raises questions about US commitment. Could he abandon Taiwan? And as the iconic Indian film Sholay turns 50, its timeless tale of friendship, vengeance and valor still captivates hearts around the world. We revisit the enduring legacy of this film. All that and much, much more coming up on Voice of the Global South. We take a deep dive into news that's sending ripples across the Indo-Pacific and beyond. A potential flashpoint that could reshape global geopolitics. We're talking about Taiwan, a democratic island of 23 million people, sitting at one of the world's most critical maritime choke points and under the growing shadow of a possible Chinese blockade. Add to that a controversial referendum on nuclear energy and Trump's vacillation on Taiwan, and you've got a situation that warrants attention. Let me unpack this complex web of events for you. First, the specter of a Chinese blockade of Taiwan. Now, a blockade is a strategic chokehold aimed at forcing Taiwan into submission without firing a shot. A recent report from a US-based think tank called the Center for Strategic and International Studies is titled Lights Out: Wargaming a Chinese Blockade of Taiwan. It paints a sobering picture. Since 2022, when China flexed its military muscle in response to then US Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taipei, Beijing has conducted numerous drills simulating blockades around Taiwan. Now, these exercises aren't just saber-rattling. They are a signal of intent. According to Chinese military doctrine, a joint blockade campaign is one of the key strategies that the People's Liberation Army is preparing for. The report, based on 26 war games, explores what might happen if China were to cut off Taiwan's access to vital supplies such as food, energy and trade. The findings are stark. 1. The report concludes that in most scenarios, Taiwan cannot face China alone. It recommends Taiwan should work with allies and partners. 2. In all scenarios, Taiwan runs out of natural gas in about 10 days. The report recommends rapid acquisition of ships to run the blockade because regular shipping companies would not take the risk of getting involved if China begins a blockade. Also, Taiwan should consider reopening its last nuclear plant rather than continuing its closure as currently planned. 3. The US Navy is out of practice because convoys have not been a priority mission since the end of the Cold War. It recommends war games and peacetime planning for rebuilding of skills needed to keep Taiwan supplied. And 4, the US will need the support of allies and partners in any conflict with China. Making joint plans with allies and partners, especially Japan, is what the report recommends. The report goes on to say the following about China. A blockade is not a low-cost, low-risk option for China. China's losses would be higher than those of the US. And any blockade will create escalatory pressures that would be difficult to contain. So, get this, the report concludes that a blockade is the most obvious choice for Beijing as opposed to sanctions or invasion. Now, that is because, one, the effects of sanctions are unreliable and they work slowly. And two, though an invasion promises a decisive resolution, it risks a dramatic defeat. Also, invasion of outlying islands might draw the US in more directly. So a blockade could cripple Taiwan's economy, particularly by targeting its energy sector, and could escalate into the greatest naval battles since World War II. But here's the kicker. A blockade would not just hurt Taiwan, it would disrupt international trade and affect economies worldwide. Taiwan is a global powerhouse, especially in semiconductors, those tiny chips that power everything from your smartphone to your car. Taiwan's role in global supply chains, especially semiconductors, means that a blockade would ripple far beyond the Taiwan Strait. Which brings me to another major development. On 23rd August, Taiwan will hold a referendum on allowing its only functional nuclear plant to continue operating despite prior plans to shut it down. Proponents argue that nuclear power is a reliable, low-carbon option that could reduce Taiwan's vulnerability to external pressures. In other words, nuclear power provides the ultimate energy resilience because it can run continuously and without significant imports through any blockade. But critics point to risks such as radioactive waste and potential accidents, especially in a region prone to earthquakes, invoking memories of the 2011 Fukushima nuclear accident in Japan. The war games show that even a partial blockade could devastate Taiwan's economy, particularly by targeting energy supplies. So Taiwan's referendum on nuclear power is therefore a direct response to this vulnerability. It's a bid to shore up resilience against a scenario where ships carrying coal or gas can't get through. And now to another challenge confronting Taiwan, Trump's vacillation or inconsistency. Take the case of semiconductors. In April, Trump said that the US would restrict the sale of advanced artificial intelligence chips to China in a bid to slow Beijing's technological and military gains. But by July, he did an about-face on it. Trump decided to allow the US-based NVIDIA, which is the world leader in AI chips, to begin selling a lower-level but still coveted chip to China. Take a look at this news report published by the New York Times. It's headlined as Trump quotes Beijing, China hawks lose ground. He has not been blocked from visiting the US, insisting that he has no plans to travel overseas in the near future. Here's what Trump has had to say when asked about China.
We have a very good relationship, but I didn't call for the meeting. He called for the meeting. So the fake news announced Donald Trump wants a meeting with China. No, I didn't want it. No, he asked for a meeting, and I'll end up having a meeting before the end of the year, most likely, if we make a deal. If we don't make a deal, I'm not going to have a meeting. I mean, you know, what's the purpose of meeting if we're not going to make a deal? But we're getting very close to a deal. We're getting along with China very well.
So the question is, how far is Washington, D.C. willing to go to back Taipei against Beijing? Is it a prelude to Trump's visit to China, a one-off concession to Beijing, or a sign of a broader recalibration? The Financial Times report contained an ominous warning. It said, and I quote, "In addition to concerns about derailing a summit, some officials say the U.S. needs to hide and bide with respect to China." The phrase, which was used by China's former paramount leader Deng Xiaoping, is being invoked to explain that the rare earths leverage China has created over the US limits Washington's ability to take tough actions against Beijing, unquote. The CSI's report notes that Trump's commitment to Taiwan has been less clear. Unlike President Biden, Trump has doubled down on messages of strategic ambiguity. In December 2024, Trump said that he would never say whether he was committed to defending Taiwan. But when asked directly in February 2025, Trump replied that he never comments on that. He's expressed a desire for a positive relationship with China while suggesting that Taiwan must invest much more in its defenses, up to 10% of its GDP. Now, that said, here's something else you need to understand. The Taiwan Relations Act, which provides the most authoritative statement about U.S. interests with regard to Taiwan's future, does not, I repeat, does not commit the U.S. to intervention in the event of an attack. But what it does is to stipulate that the U.S. would consider any effort to determine the future of Taiwan by anything other than peaceful means as a matter of grave concern. So, in conclusion, the bottom line is this: although war with China is unlikely, it is not impossible. As U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, any attempt by Communist China to conquer Taiwan by force would result in devastating consequences for the Indo-Pacific and the world. There's no reason to sugarcoat it. The threat China poses is real and it could be imminent. We hope not, but it certainly could be. For Taiwan, the stakes could not be higher. The island's 23 million people live under the constant threat of Chinese coercion, whether through military drills, economic pressure, or diplomatic isolation. As for China, its goal is clear: prevent Taiwan's permanent separation and eventually bring it under Beijing's control, by force if necessary. But Trump's recent moves, such as allowing the sale of advanced AI chips to China, might embolden Beijing to push harder, testing the resolve of Taiwan and its allies alike. A fictional TV series called Zero Day Attack was aired on 2nd August. It's about a Chinese invasion of Taiwan.
以后我们就是一家人。
The series kicks off with China sending military boats and planes for a blockade of Taiwan after a Chinese warplane goes missing near Taiwan. Then chaos ensues on the streets of Taipei just after Taiwan elected a new president. Now, for years, a war with China was considered a topic too sensitive for many Taiwanese filmmakers and television show creators because of fears of losing access to the lucrative Chinese market. But today, some Taiwanese support the show. They see it as a timely wake-up call for Taiwan's public. The show is part of a larger effort by Taipei to raise awareness and spur urgency for civil resilience efforts. Alongside public training exercises, Taiwan aims to psychologically prepare its society for an imminent clash with China. So Taiwan is a story that's far from over, and you can trust us to keep you updated on all things Taiwan. 15th August marks the golden jubilee of the release of the iconic Indian film Sholay. Released in 1975, this Bollywood classic, known for its gripping tale of friendship, revenge, and unforgettable dialogues, continues to captivate audiences worldwide. From Egypt and Iran to Canada and Suriname, Sholay's universal appeal transcends borders and resonates with generations. As Ragini Sudhir Chore reports, the legendary film remains a global phenomenon, uniting diverse cultures through its timeless storytelling.
कितने आदमी थे?
कितने आदमी थे? It was just a question in 1975. Today, it is a national chant. A whisper that's echoed for half a century and counting. A line that turned a dacoit into a deity, a flop into a folklore, and a movie into a monument. But this wasn't just a story for Bollywood fandom alone. It was a showcase of India's soft power globally. On 15th of August 1975, as the Indian national flag fluttered in the morning breeze, a different kind of fire lit up the Indian cinema. It wasn't just a film, it was Sholay. The Sippies had waggered everything. 3 crore rupees, a sprawling set carved into a rocky village near Bengaluru, imported Panavision cameras, stereophonic sound, and an ensemble cast that would shape Indian screen history. Ramesh Sippy was just 28. The script? A bulletproof saga from the legendary duo Salim Javed. The film was billed as India's biggest cinematic gamble. The runtime was mocked, the influences derided. A critic even nicknamed it as Sholay or chickpea, bland and overcooked. The film performed average, distributors panicked. Theatre owners whispered about pulling it out. In the Sippy office, tension simmered. The family fortune was bleeding. Amjad Khan, the face behind Gabbar Singh, was written off as cartoonish. And yet, inside the chaos, there was defiance. Salim and Javed refused to surrender. They bought space in a national daily to publish a bold claim: Sholay will earn 1 crore per territory. In an era where ticket prices were at 2 rupees, the industry laughed. But Salim Javed were not laughing. They had written cinema's new scripture, and then a miracle happened. By the second week, a whisper turned into a roar. In Dadar, chaiwalas began quoting, "Jo dar gaya, samjho mar gaya." In colleges, Jay's coin flips became a style statement. Families began humming, "Ye dosti hum nahi todenge." Gabbar's voice, once ridiculed, became religion. Basanti's chatter echoed in living rooms. Thakur's silence screamed vengeance. And R.D. Burman's score rolled out of every radio in the country. Ab Tera Kya Hoga Kalia became a threat on school playgrounds. Ye haath humko de de Thakur was not just a dialogue, it became a metaphor for justice denied. And that chilling line, "Holi kab hai Holi," became a pop culture rallying cry.
Holi kab hai? Kab hai Holi? Kab?
Theatres were empty just days ago, now had queues longer than railway tracks. Shows were sold out for weeks together. Tickets were selling in black. Regal Cinema in New Delhi added a 2 a.m. screening. In Mumbai's Minerva Theatre, where it was once a ghost town, a miracle unfolded. 5 continuous years of screening, 286 weeks, over 1,000 shows, house full every single time. That record stands untouched in India's cinematic history. By 1976, Sholay was India's highest grossing film of all times, a title it would hold for 19 years. It collected 35 crore rupees worldwide, including massive runs in the erstwhile Soviet Union and West Asia. Adjusted for inflation, that's more than 3,000 crore rupees today. That is more than $340 million. An estimated 250 million tickets sold globally, an audience size that dwarfs the population of most nations, highlighting India's potential to use its soft power. In the erstwhile Soviet Union, Hindi was barely understood, but fans memorized dialogues from the film phonetically.
तो जरा कुछ नाच गाना दिखा दो हमको भी। नहीं! बसंती इन कुत्तों के सामने मत नाचना!
In Pakistan, Maula Jat was born out of its dacoit DNA. In 1999, the BBC named Sholay the film of the millennium. The British Film Institute placed it among the top 10 Indian films of all times. In 2005, India's Filmfare magazine called Sholay's dialogues the greatest ever written in Indian cinema. Sholay was a masala masterpiece that won hearts from Minerva Theatre to Moscow and from Cairo to California. In 2020, during his Namaste Trump address at Motera Stadium in Ahmedabad, US President Donald Trump highlighted its global resonance, saying that all over the planet, people take great joy in watching Bollywood films, Bhangra, and classic films such as DDLJ and Sholay.
People take great joy in scenes of Bhangra, music, dance, romance, and drama, and classic Indian films like DDLJ and Sholay.
Trump invoking Sholay was a recognition of not just a movie, but of a movement that transcended the borders. And now, in 2025, Sholay finds itself once again in the spotlight at the Toronto International Film Festival in Canada, making it to the prestigious list of iconic films 5 decades after its release, a testament to its enduring impact on global audiences. In 2023, during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Egypt, a girl sang "Ye Dosti Hum Nahi Todenge," not just as a tribute, but as a celebration of the emotional bridge that Indian cinema builds across the cultures. The magic of Ramgarh has touched the Nile. This year too, on 11th of July, the Indian Embassy in Suriname kicked off the Bollywood Festival at TBL Cinema with none other than Sholay, a symbol of cultural celebration and shared cinematic joy. Such is the universal appeal of Sholay that Iran's leading newspaper dedicated an entire page to the film, a bold tribute that shows how India's iconic film has remained beloved in West Asia for half a century. Even the film's lead actor Amitabh Bachchan took to his blog to post an image of an old Sholay ticket priced at 20 rupees, marveling at how far the film and the Indian cinema have come. The post read, "The Sholay ticket kept and preserved rupees 20. The price? I'm told that is the price of an aerated drink in theatre halls nowadays. Is that a fact?" The film, which performed average in its first week, grew steadily with an international fan base. Even in 2025, Sholay with the original ending was premiered on the big screen in Italy with thousands of people under the stars till 1 a.m. in the night watching India's incredible masterpiece. The film was a hit in Thailand too. A former Thai ambassador to India posted this message on X in December 2020. It read, "Soundtrack from the movie Sholay. It was so popular that the lyrics were translated into Thai by Mr. Sanit Manorath and sung by Mr. Yodrak Salakjai. The huge popularity of this movie made India increasingly known among Thai people." In the world of cinema, some stories are perfect, some characters eternal. Jay and Veeru were not just friends, they were brothers. Thakur was not just a lawman, he was a fury restrained. Basanti was not just a chatterbox, she was India's first action heroine. And Gabbar Singh, he was not just a villain, he was an idea, a fear, a question that still haunts. As Sholay turns 50, it stands tall, not just in history but in hearts across the world. A film that was nearly buried but now worshipped. Sholay is alive because fire never dies. Sholay may have dimmed once, but when ignited again, it becomes an inferno. A golden jubilee later, we're still asking, होली कब है होली? ये हाथ हमको दे दे ठाकुर. कितने आदमी थे? अब तेरा क्या होगा कालिया? For India, Sholay was not just a movie. It was a turning point, a fire that never stopped burning. As it completes 50 years, we don't just celebrate a film, we celebrate a phenomena. Ragini Sudhir Chaure for DD India.
And it's a wrap. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.